name is Scott Day. I'm the principal of Urban Development Services in San Antonio, Texas. We do a variety of things related to image development for retailers and commercial districts. Anything from building exteriors, building interiors, merchandising, streetscape plans, get into that, a little bit of retail economics, etc. This is sort of an offshoot of a workshop that we developed about 20 years ago, and a product that I kind of conspired with a former employer of mine when I was in school at Milwaukee, at the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. And Carl was a great retailer, but he also had a design background. His family owned a business in Nebraska, a small city, small business there. And so it was an arts photography related business. So he came to retail with a very visual background, but also a very practical background in terms of business. Carl's main philosophy was that if it doesn't look good, I mean, it can look as good as it wants to, but if it's not selling, then it's not selling well. So it doesn't matter how good it looks, it's got to be ringing the cash register. His other philosophy was that as you as an employee, you're actually running a business within a business. And so right from day one, when you walk in the store of that. Okay, you here? Are we good? Okay, all right, good. With that in mind, we put together the workshop and we've been kind of tweaking it over the years. We found that it was more imperative now, given the current state of affairs in America, that we kind of tweak this a little bit and start to stretch the workshop and its boundaries a little bit. This is a picture of my 4-year-old daughter when she was about 1, and I always kind of feel like, as a parent, our whole role is, hey, how safe are our kids going to be? And that's your role as a parent, is to make sure that they're safe. But I think this is also kind of somewhat true from a business perspective, especially in this current retail environment, is we really need to think about how we can sandbag and protect ourselves so that we can successfully weather the storm. The workshop or the seminar that I have here for you this afternoon is going to cover a lot of different bases in terms of retail. We're going to look at advertising, we're going to look at merchandising, we're going to look at floor plan layouts, we're going to look at all those things you can do to strengthen your business. At this point in time, we have to kick, scratch, claw, do whatever we can to remain competitive in the retail market. This is a great business we were working with in Coffeyville, Kansas a few years ago. You see on the side of their business it says Isham Hardware since 1870. I'm like, well, that has to be the oldest hardware store in the state of Kansas, if not one of the oldest in the country, still going. They're like, well, we think so. I'm like, no, so. You have to claim that. And, whatever you do, stake it out, claim it, let someone else disprove it, but run with that for all you can, because that is continuously operating for 140 years. There are not a lot of other businesses that can really claim it. Now, it's not the same building. One of their prior buildings had burned down, and that one's been remodeled a little bit. But any of those things that you can use as resources in this day and age, we need to be ready to do that. A lot of times people in this environment are quick to offer a discount. And this is one of my favorite family stories. My wife's grandfather started Powell Quality Cleaners in San Antonio in the middle of the Depression. And for $200, he bought a cleaning business, and that included debt that he bought with that as well. And the first thing he did was not offer cheaper prices. The first thing he did was say, change the name to Powell and then Quality Cleaners, and he raised the prices. And everyone was like, you're nuts. He said, no, everyone else is at this price point. I've got to offer a better quality and a better value. And so he did that, and he really went after the higher, the better quality customers. And one of the key ones that he went after was Frost Brothers in San Antonio, which is the local department store at that point in time. And he went after all the return business. Anything that people brought back to him before it would go out on the floor, it would be a return. They would have to be cleaned, and they didn't do that in-house. And what he was subtly doing was telling people, he says, yes, I'm the official cleaners of Frost Brothers. And so he built that prestige, and he gave them, where he cut his prices a little bit was to Frost in order to get their business. But he made that up in other areas in terms of saying, I'm the quality cleaner. So it's not always necessarily about offering a discount to people. There's kind of two things we'll look at. One is the internal selling envelope, and the other is the external selling envelope of the building. The external selling space is the sidewalk, facade, signs, store windows. Basically, my philosophy here is that retail is really theater. When the customers walk into your store, they're walking onto a stage, and it's up to you as the retailer to use all those different things at your disposal to set the stage and to create the ambiance for the right environment for people to want to buy the product in your store. But that also starts, though, before they enter your store, when they walk up and down the street. And so that experience in getting there is important as well. If trash isn't picked up, your windows aren't washed, those are things that are going to take away from, obviously, the customer's experiences. Building facade improvements. I've seen some that don't cost a lot and can make a profound difference. This one was slightly more expensive, but this one had one of the most profound impacts on a business's bottom line. Where would you want to order your pizza from? Restaurant A on the left or Restaurant B on the right? This is Firehouse Pizza in Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin. As a result of doing that facade improvement, in the first year their sales went up by 65%, and in the ensuing years, as everyone else up and down the street started to revitalize and improve their buildings, their sales had doubled within 3 years of making that facade improvement. This gives you another example of what happened just down the street. This was a building that was affectionately known as Rosemary's Baby. Rosemary Miley owned it, said she was going to fix it up, Finally, she unfortunately passed away, but that's when the building got fixed up, because she had to pass away and the estate had to sell it. And this is what it looks like afterwards. And so, again, as everyone starts to get in the act, as everyone starts to make the facade improvements, that can really have a big difference on your bottom line. Now, not to say that you have to spend a lot to do that. There have been facade improvements that have cost as little as $1,000. Removing those layers, easy, simple paint jobs, better signs, those things can easily improve some sales. And I'll show you some things in a little bit. Some projects we're working with in Washington, D.C. and some neighborhoods there we've been doing work with. We're just merely moving products around on the shelves and resetting the shelves has created about a 3% boost in sales. The key to getting people in your door is transparency. And if you're a retailer, you need to look for this in any site selection or anything you're doing in terms of remodeling. You need to be able to see into your store. If you can't see into it, people aren't going to buy it. If you're like me, you're very apprehensive about wanting to move into a business that's totally shrouded on the left. But the same thing also happens with a lot of today's window glazings that people are starting to put in to be in the sort of the name of energy efficiency. They're putting smoked glass, heavily smoked glass, tinted mirrored glass on their windows, and remodeling is thinking that they're going to be more energy efficient. Really what that says to me is, one, you have a sun problem. And if you have a sun problem, then you have an awning problem, and you shouldn't be darkening and tinting your windows, because it's literally cutting the sales of your store. Because people can't see in, your store will look closed. If you and your significant other are debating the merits of making those types of improvements to your facade, and one says smoke tinted glass and the other says clear glass, it's time to get a divorce. That's about how strongly I feel about that. Go with the clear glass, because otherwise you aren't going to be able to see your products. Make sure you design for human scale and human signs. We talked about that yesterday. Good signage can boost your sales. So I talked about yesterday the business in Howell, Michigan that put up their sign and their sales went up by 200% as a result of that sign going up on their building facade. Anyway, why are all these things important? Well, retail really is all about theater. It's about getting people to walk up and down the street. It's about having good neighbors, good retailing adjacent to you. That's what creates foot traffic. And when that happens, you can start to get more people walking up and down the street and exploring your store. And that is critical, because the typical pedestrian is only willing to walk about 70 feet in an unstimulating selling environment. If there are blank walls, if there are mirrored smoked glass windows, if there are vacancies, if there are offices, if there's parking lots, if there's drive-through banks, whatever that is, that will start to create disincentives for people to want to walk and explore the commercial district. So the tighter we can keep it with retailers, the more transparent that street edge is, the better we have a chance, the shot we have at getting people in our front door. Why is that critical? As you can see, 65% of all retail sales are unplanned impulse purchases. Now I'm going to show you some other things here that's called what we call the leisure time shoppers. Now, some of these figures are pre-recession, so I would say that this has probably been dampened a little bit. If anything I'm seeing right now is that people are buying really only out of necessity, and people in fact are giving necessities of life as gifts. So, this Christmas, expect to give your spouse a washer and dryer and try and get that underneath the Christmas tree or the holiday tree. It's not the most romantic thing, but in this environment, it certainly is practical. Leisure shoppers spend an average about $113 per shopping trip, making this segment of the consumers one of the most profitable and informed, according to Ann Howe of Market Intelligent Insights. What do they buy? Typically, apparel 40% of the time, health and beauty 26%, entertainment, leisure. By the way, I'm going to go quickly. If you don't have time to write all these things down, let me know, and I'll be happy to send you the text from any of this. Frequent leisure time shopper statistics, typically 54% are female, which typically kind of mirrors the U.S. population. Average age 31. Most want to relax, get away from the house. Bought apparel on their last shopping trip 40% of the time. May purchase at discount 32%. Wander up and down the aisles when leisure shopping. So that means, again, if they want to wander and they want to explore, we need to be using good floor plans that encourage and invite people's exploration through the store. And we'll talk about how to achieve that in a little bit. In-store marketing. Okay. First thing, this day and age, our customers are much more savvy about where they shop and how they shop. And a lot of them have traveled to other places, the distant lands, and they've seen really good merchandising. And when they come back to your own store, they're going to expect that same level and quality. Now, hand-lettered signs, without a doubt, there's some pros and cons to those. My rule of thumb is that if it's a machine-made product, then it can be a machine-made sign. If it's a handmade product, it can be a handmade sign. So if you look at this store on the bottom left-hand side, this is the Limited. On the upper right-hand side is another women's apparel store, both machine-made items. But the one up here says New Fall Arrivals. It's a last-minute sign they tacked up. It's obviously going to discount your product, probably anywhere from 15 to 20%. Then they also throw the product on plastic hangers. Wooden hangers cost $1 a piece. You can buy them in bulk. Very inexpensive way to raise the value of your merchandise. Very important. Touch and feel and perception has everything to do with perceived value of your merchandise. And if you don't put it in the right environment, you don't wrap it up in the right ambience, your product is going to be discounted. Your cash wrap desk is where a lot of the lasting impressions of your business are formed. This one I love, the return policy. If you can't read that on the front of the cash register, that's what that says. You don't have to know what it all says. But the fact that it's hand lettered, I feel like if it's hand lettered and you're about to walk out the door, that return policy is subject to change at a moment's notice. Your return policy needs to be professionally mounted and displayed or framed so it doesn't seem tenuous at best. This, not the greatest, but they're doing the job, and it is what they are. I don't know if I agree with everything that's in there, but it is professionally printed. It is by the register. It's a good start to get in the right direction. Store personnel. Selling skills are absolutely critical in their attire, and how they dress is also important to selling your store. So now it's difficult to tell people to dress better when they come to work, but that's one of the things you really need to do when you hire people. Often in this environment too, I'm finding that a lot of people hire their relatives because they need a job. Maybe those people have selling skills, maybe they don't. And again, I would say that if they don't have them, it's as difficult as it is to say no, you need to forego that. It's very, very difficult to fire someone, let alone a relative. We were just working with a small grocer in DC that runs a deli as well, and he hired his niece to run the deli. And she doesn't speak English real well. And when you walk in the deli, and if this is the counter, she's standing back here. And just quiet, doesn't say hello, doesn't greet you, doesn't do anything. And as a result, who wants to go, when do I order, when should I order? There's no clue about when you need to go ahead and place your order. And also in food, you have to go ahead and really sell it. We say that if you're going to commit to it, you got to sell it. And that means that you're pulling stuff out, you're letting people taste things, especially if they're new customers. Her interaction wasn't good. That is all part, especially in the food industry, is critical to getting people to want to come back to your store. So selling skills or marketing skills. I always say yes, one of the most important skills are good listeners, and we just talked about that, but it's also interaction. It's asking the question and then standing back and listening and solving the problems that the customers have. Know how to handle objections and learn from those rejections. You're not going to have everything everyone wants all the time, but that's fine. And if they don't be afraid to offer up advice about where they can possibly go find that. I was in Wisconsin a few weeks ago. I was trying to find ladder racks for my truck. Who cares what they are? If you don't know, it doesn't matter. I was in this big, chain agricultural Fleet Farm store in Appleton, Wisconsin, and the guy said, "Yeah, we only have the one brand." He goes, "But you know who has them?" I was like, "Wow!" And he offered up the competition. He said, "Yeah, there's this company, it's called Pickup Trucks, etc., and they're open tomorrow at these hours. They'll have what you want." And he didn't care because he knew he wasn't going to get me as a customer that day, but he'd rather have me remember that I can come back to that store because they offer good service, and I will. And you don't expect that out of a store, a 200,000 square foot store. I kid you not. This thing is humongous, but they're offering that kind of service. They had nothing to fear. In terms of selling skills, sometimes you're part therapist, sometimes you're part educator, but more than importantly, you are the ringleader of the theater. And so when people walk into that stage, you're the director or you're the ringleader of the circus, and you got to make it come to life. You got to make that experience memorable. And most importantly is having good product knowledge. And so that means when new products come in the store, commit to have the staff learning those products, understanding those products, demonstrate it so that they can sell and in turn educate the customers. Attire. If people aren't wearing the best attire to work, again, it's kind of a difficult conversation to have with someone, but if the outfits are slightly too revealing, aprons are a great way to solve that issue. And plus, more importantly, it makes it easy for staff to be identified out there on the floor. In this day and age, a lot of in-house marketing is happening because it's simple and it's inexpensive. Watch with the point of sale signs. So you're starting to walk into a lot of your bigger grocery stores now and your bigger retailers. You walk down the aisle and it sees you coming and it goes, it'll, either a voice will grab you or it'll spit out the coupon. Most of our small town retailers don't have that kind of technology. In fact, I think it's probably not warranted because that's probably too much like the big box, and that's probably not why people are shopping in our downtown. On the other hand, though, people are quickly apt to go ahead and write the point of sale signs, and you can see the store we're working with here. Everything's on special. After a while, it becomes a question of what's not on special, and so you're just really overwhelming. There's too many signs saying too many things, and as a result, the store starts to become a very confusing place to shop. Using in-store advertising, special events can be a great way to bring people in. Book signings for products that you sell. If you can get vendors to come in the hardware arena. DeWalt has the DeWalt van, and they will show up for businesses of all sizes. It doesn't have to be a Home Depot or Lowe's. They'll come to your local hardware store if you sell DeWalt tools, and they'll put the van up, and they get everything all charged up and powered up, and they got stuff for kids to do. It becomes theater in its own way in front of your store. Donate a portion of your day's sales to charity. Use bag stuffers. Develop email lists for Twitter and Facebook. I used to say develop mailing lists to send out postcards. In this day and age, Twitter and Facebook are just smoking all the postcards. So it's really, you got to get your retailer savvy with that. If they're not comfortable with that, then maybe that's one of those services that you as a Main Street or as a bid director can do for them, is get them comfortable, get the Twitter and the Facebook accounts set up so that they can start to use those as tools. Your advertising message. Advertise and offer good values. A lot of times, again, people want to say discounts. And I think a lot of people are saying that this day and age, but if you talk about good prices and good values, I think that's probably a safer way to go rather than to throw yourself into the throes of competing directly with Walmart and Target and those other folks. And take time to educate your customers. This is one of my favorite stores. This is not too far from where I grew up in Maryland. This is the Crestmont menswear store. It's in Frostburg, Maryland, and the demographic in Frostburg says that you would carry Dickies jeans and you would sell T-shirts. There's Frostburg State College, which is an affiliate of the University of Maryland, and you have retired coal miners. They don't wear Hart Schaffner Marks suits, but guess what? This guy's selling them. You walk in, it's like, this does not make sense. What's going on here? And what he's doing is he's living off of all of the traffic that goes out to their weekend lake traffic out on Deep Creek Lake. And so Deep Creek Lake pulls from Pittsburgh, it pulls from Baltimore, it pulls from Washington. And when the lake traffic has bad weather, it's rainy, it's cold or whatever, these people come into town, they're dying for something to do. And he's offering Hart Schaffner Marks suits and ties and dress apparel at a fraction of the cost that you can find them in the bigger cities. He's also employed a great database, and he tracks all of his customers. It doesn't matter how often you have shopped in his store. I had a pair of pants that I bought from him. I said, I've got to leave today. He goes, no problem. I will tailor the pants and I will send them to you. And by the time I got home in San Antonio the next day, he kind of went the step further. He went ahead and overnight express mailed them to me there at my doorstep. I was like, wow, that's impressive. So he really goes out of his way and he offers that service. And while we were talking, he said, he said, I have clients that when they're on the road and they'll say, I spilled something, I forgot something, I forgot this part of my wardrobe. He says, no problem. He goes, are you still a size 38? Yeah. And you bought that in white? Yeah. Okay, coming your way. Pull it, boom, send it. So I tested it. About 8 years later, my favorite pair of pants I brought from him wore out, and I called him. He goes, Scott, good to hear from you. I haven't heard from you quite a while. And then I said, he started kind of chatting around. He kind of remembered, he put a note in there that I used to live in the area. He said, yeah, you going to get back here anytime soon? And I said, well, no, probably not. But I lost that, or the pair of pants I wore out. They're starting to show, get a little threadbare. He goes, oh, you want another pair? He goes, well, I can send this to you. I said, we got them in stock, same brand. And are you still a size 34? Well, no. Okay, well, what size do you think you are? Give us your measurement. Hit it right on the button. Had them tailored there at my door 2 days later. So, that's the kind of thing we have to do. Kick, scratch, claw in order to get those sales today. And that's it's important. Now, I don't quite get this. This is one of his bag stuffers. It says, if he's in no hurry to undress after the wedding, blame it on us. I'm thinking, well, I don't know how to read it, but it's catchy. It gets me thinking a little bit about his story. Is it because the guy thinks he looks too good? And I don't know. Anyway, but here's one of his things. He is always pumping what's coming up, and so he'll get the Hartshafter Marks guy coming in his store, and they'll be doing trunk shows, and those are the hours, and you come in and get free fittings. He says a lot of times people come in, they'll get measured, and they realize, maybe I don't really want the Hartshafter Marks suit. I'll go for something a little less expensive, but he's got their measurements. It gets them in the store. It's a good traffic builder. So anyway, consider the packaging that your goods go out the door in. This is the workshop in Simsbury, Connecticut. One of the things they were doing at first is they were using this cellophane embossed bag, and people were wanting those bags, and they're 75 cents a piece. And when people are buying $3 gift cards, and if you put that in as a 75-cent bag, there went a lot of your profit out the door. They started shifting over to mass-produced envelopes and stickers or a clear cellophane with a colored paper underneath. They can do those. They can give gifts out the door for about 20 to 25 cents a piece. So watch those sort of substitution of things. The Colorado Cat House in Montrose, Colorado, they got their own stamp. They sit there and they stamp their bags. So when there's those slow periods in their sales, instead of paying someone else to stamp all those bags, they can buy them in bulk, and the employees just hit them with their stamp. Consider a logo and a slogan. I can't tell you, a lot of small businesses never think about this, but this is what starts to build a brand and for your store. And brand awareness is very, very important. Anybody recognize who that figure is? Yeah, Betty Crocker. And on the upper left-hand side, we have the very first Betty Crocker, and over here on the right, we have the latest version of Betty Crocker. And notice how Betty Crocker has subtly changed. Betty Crocker's not a real person. It's completely fictitious and made up. And so they have come up with the Betty Crocker that fits the profile of the market that they think that they're going after. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But all these different brands, at one point in time or another, employed some sort of an icon with their product. What's your icon for your business? It doesn't cost a lot to start to do that. This is what starts to build value in your business, just like owning real estate, is that sort of brand awareness. And think about slogans as well for your business to use in your advertising. Okay, let's give a couple here. We don't have time to go through them all. Breakfast of Champions? Yeah. Let's see. We Try Harder? Very good. Look, Ma, no cavities. Yeah, you guys, you're showing your age. Stop. Okay. Let's see. Look, let your fingers do the walking. I still remember that one too. Okay, so anyway, those things stick in people's minds. Where I was raised in Western Maryland, we had a jewelry store called St. Littles, and that was the family name. And their slogan was "Good things come in little packages." And it just worked hand to glove. And so whenever you saw that little blue box with the gold writing on it, you knew that it was something really nice coming to you. So those types of things do pay handsome dividends. Those are the answers to all that. Marketing through the media. This is often one of the first things that gets cut during the recession, which is unfortunate because I would say you don't need to cut your budget, but you do need to analyze what is being effective for your business. Radio advertising, one of the things I hear often from businesses, remotes are a great way to build foot traffic and get people in the store. A lot of radio stations are willing to do those things. They're fairly cost effective to do those. Cable television. This is one of the things that we're sort of primetime television. It's probably way out of reach for most of our businesses. It's not going to be cost effective. But cable TV actually affords you the opportunity to really kind of dial in more specifically to your customer market. If you got someone selling motorcycles, then they need to be on, the Discovery Channel with Orange County Choppers are showing. If you got someone that's selling athletic and outdoor footwear, they need to be on the outdoor channel, and those you can link those things up, and you can be more specific with your customers. Otherwise, you're just kind of broadcasting and hoping that you recruit someone with your advertising. Print, sadly enough, newspapers are not as that cost effective anymore. They've cut their staffs, their distribution's down. The advertising reps that can do good ads for you aren't there. It's not as well done as it used to. Local magazines, flyers might be a little bit more effective. Talk about some things though that work well, that need to work well though for print if you do it. Your typeface needs to be easily read. If you can't read it in less than a second, it's too confusing. Describe and provide the customer benefits. Be very bold about stating those in your ads. It should motivate the customers to take actions. I love this one. Don't look too closely at the interest rates down below. I think they're at 9.5%, 10%. So it's a little bit old. I understand that, but still the message works there. And white space sells. And this is one of the things that I think all retailers feel like, I'm paying for it, I have to use every square inch of it, and so they jam everything into their ads. And the same is true often with their display windows. And Susan Shattuck is going to talk more about display windows later on. But don't put everything about your business into your display windows, because your customers aren't going to take the time to look at everything in your store. So be simple and be bold with what you're doing in terms of your advertising, because it will get better readership. Headlines should grab the customer's attention as well. And these are a series of ads that were done for a medical center. It was one of the emergency medical centers. And I think it's kind of fun, and it starts to tell you about reasons why you might go there to that center. And the headline should tell a complete story if you can do that. Free advertising. This is what everyone loves to do. If you can get advertising. I always say that the front page of the newspaper is not for sale. But if you get a really well done activity at your store, if you sponsored something, then you start to get your name above the fold on the front page of your local newspaper. Otherwise, you can do things like newspaper columns where you become an expert, radio call-in shows, local cable TV, how-to programs, guest speakers. Get on the internet listservs. If you get on there, though, watch you don't become too appreciating. Otherwise, people will get a little bit resentful on the listservs. Offer how-to classes. Set up your own blog on the internet. Any of those things. The more things you can do like that, the more you start to position yourselves as an expert. In San Antonio, there's a guy called Johnny Chokin. Every Saturday morning, Johnny was on the air with his list of how you can improve your house for not a lot of money. And of course, every solution involved the product that he sold at the store, but that was part of why he had that show. But he got out there. He didn't pay them to be on the air. The radio came and paid him to get onto the nominal fee to get him on the air with that show, because it had such great following from the listeners. He eventually wrote a book about it, and it was like Johnny's Top Tips or something like that, and it was about yay big, and he sold it by his register. His tagline, though, was, "It's a great day to paint." No matter how cold it was, how rainy it was, he was always saying, "It's a great day to paint," because that's what brought people in, was his paint department. So, virtually free advertising, dressing characters up and putting them on the streets is a great way to do that. I don't know if you've seen any of the people that are out there now that have the signs that spin and they twirl and all those sorts of things. It's kind of fun. It's okay, I think, if a couple people do it, if everyone starts to do it, I think maybe it gets a little bit out there. And I always say, too, do your R&D. And R&D stands off not for research and design, but it stands for rip off and duplicate. And so, take stock in terms of what has been done out there. And so instead of using just do it, you've just done it, instead of got milk, got hardware. There's all kinds of different things you can do to play off of those advertising campaigns that have already played out and played played well. In-store events, trunk shows, or I mentioned before about sort of getting the Hartshafter Marks folks over, the DeWalt guys to come in. Guess some sort of competition. And my favorite there is, every April Fool's Day, guess what's wrong with the window display, or guess what's wrong with the displays in the store. But anything you can to get people walking through the store and looking around, or any other types of stunts. And that could be, when I say stunts, it needs to be tastefully done. Where I was Main Street manager in Bluffton, Indiana, every holiday season, on December 24th, about just a little after midnight, Santa Claus would magically appear in the Toma Rich furniture store window, and he would sleep on their bed. And so that was what everyone kid, they got up in the morning on the way to, wherever on Christmas morning, they had to go by Toma Rich's, I don't want to say funeral home. It was one of those old stores where they had a funeral home and they had a furniture department. There used to be a lot of those. But they went by Toma Rich Furniture Store to see, Santa sleeping in the window. Great publicity for what they're doing. Other types of sponsorships. We were doing some work with Zippo Lighter Company in Pennsylvania and working on their showroom and how it was laid out. And Zippo actually has the old Zippo. This is one of the first Zippo lighter mobiles. And the tops of the lighters actually flip back, and there's big fins that come out, or big flames that come out. They're just, they're plexiglass now. But, they put this thing in parades, and people wanted to show up at parties. It's all good advertisement and good promotion for Zippo lighters. All right, let's talk a little bit about the store planning, essentially, what needs to happen there. Basically, there's 5 selling clues that you need to appeal to in terms of the customer's selling senses, whether it be light, heat, temperature, smell, and touch. And the more you can pick up and encourage the touch and feel of the merchandise, the more likely you are to get those customers into your store. In terms of the internal selling space, the first 10 feet of your store are the real impression zones. Then we need to pay attention to the aisle layout, the checkout counter, and the internal displays. Let's talk briefly about each of those things. That first 10 feet inside the door is what really sets the pace for your store. And if you see lots of hand-lettered signs, absolutely, and there are lots of negativity here, absolutely no return sale on items, half price off on regular items, you're hitting the customer with a lot of reasons why they should shop in that store. So we need to watch those things. When you walk on to an effective retailer, you really are, as I said before, stepping onto the stage. And this is Nike Town, their flagship store in Portland, Oregon, back when they had this format, and I thought it was really superb, and it was played well. And basically at this point in time, Nike was a manufacturer of footwear and not a retailer. And they realized that their image was being dictated by all these small independent retailers around the country that carried Nike footwear, some chain stores. But no one really knew what Nike was all about. If you say Nike, did you really have an image or impression of it? So what they did is they launched these Nike Town stores around the country. The Chicago, New York, Portland, San Francisco, Dallas, you name it. They all had the Nike Town stores. And when you walked in there, how many pairs of athletic footwear did you see? 0. Zip. Nada. But what you saw was a likeness of Michael Jordan flying through the air, a bank of television monitors on the back wall where the people are jumping off the Olympic divers are jumping off the platform, and the latest Nike swimwear. You really were walking onto that stage, and it's all about the materials, the lighting that started to set the pace for that store. All right, now Nike has lots of stockholders that supply them with lots of cash. Independent businesses that we work with don't have that same sort of financial resources. What can we do? One of my favorite, this is Mike Bjorn's menswear shop and museum. And the museum part is kind of a joke, but Mike was very eclectic and a collector as well. And so when he opened his store downtown, he brought down this whole bank of carousel horses that he had found. They were badly damaged. He took them back to his shop. He glued them up together, screwed them together, duct taped them, super glued them, whatever. And these carousel horses are running around, and they're jumping and going out his back door to the rear parking lot. And he said, that's effective because I want people to remember that I'm the only business downtown that has a rear parking lot. I can't ask for anything better than for people to remember where that door is, and they can park here, they can walk through my store and cut over to Main Street. So that's a selling opportunity. And so when they were inside his store, though, he said, the next thing for me is to have my wow department. What is it that really pulls them through the store? And Mike's store. It was this whole display of tuxedos that looked like students. They're actually tuxedos. His goal was to have one of every tuxedo on display that you could possibly rent from him, because he realized that a lot of the reasons people didn't rent a tuxedo when they came in is that they couldn't touch it, they couldn't feel it, they weren't quite sure what it was going to look like. And so as a result, when he got, I don't know how many are up there, maybe 30 different tuxedos on display, he started getting a much bigger share of the tuxedo market in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Eventually, I think he got up to somewhere like 40% of the market share for formal wear rental in the Kenosha area, and that's pretty outstanding. But more importantly, he realized that this is the first time that a lot of these people have ever looked good in their life. And so the next time they need to look good, where are they going to come back to? Mike's store. So that's he was really good about it. Now, the museum side of it was an ongoing joke. I mean, in his front windows, he had this little chalkboard talk between, this ongoing conversation between Marilyn Monroe and JFK. And, you know, there's all kinds of things there. Your mind can leap to conclusions. And so everyone walked by every day and they would see what, you know, how the conversation was proceeding with Marilyn Monroe and JFK. And then over here, if you can't see those little brown guys that are laying on their side, those are those deer that you put on your lawn at the holiday season. They're all laying over on their sides. You put lights inside them, and they're plastic and they light up. Well, this happened to be right before hunting season. This is so his Deer Hunter's Widow's Sale is about to happen. And if you buy more than $250 in sales in his store that week, you get a free plastic deer. And he said he's actually had a couple customers request that he tie them down on the back of their car as well. So I thought, you know, it makes sense. If you can get people coming into the store for that, why not? So, again, found objects, those are things that you can use to pull people through the store. This was a women's store down, it's called Lulu's in Hartsville, Georgia. She had a Merle Norman studio on one side with the store, which you see over there. On the other side, it was used clothing. She was using the used clothing, it was the gently used clothing, to kind of start to build her up to, because she didn't have a lot of credit, and she'd readily admit, she said, I don't have good credit, but I can get good quality consignments. I'm going to use that to boost my sales. Eventually, once I get my business up and running to the point where I've got good cash flow, I can start to talk with these other retailers and get new products that come into my store. And I thought, well, she's got a plan. You got to keep working the plan and keep sticking with it. And so one of the key things she did, she went out, when she needed to display her stuff, she went down to the elementary school that was throwing all the chairs away. And the dumpster diving, hey, if you're retailing, dumpster diving is an honorable profession, okay? So she went down there and grabbed all kinds of great props that you can get from there. Those cost her nothing. Screwed them to the wall, hung the shirts off of them. The other thing she does is she has got a break room in back that she doesn't advertise this a lot, but it's a well-known fact that you can get your favorite adult beverage in the back room. She can't sell it, but you can go back there, and anytime you're downtown, come over and have a cold one. She says it's great because, you know, the women are out front shopping. The guys want a break. They can go back and they've got, you know, 400 channels of satellite TV. They can watch whatever they want, and whatever sports show, and they can have a cold beer if they want to, you know, kick back while their wife is shopping out front. What does that really cost her? I don't know. You know, that adds value to the people wanting to come in. She said eventually it's gotten to the point where a lot of guys will come downtown, they'll have a cold one, but to make up for it, they have to buy something before they go home. So anyway, Lou Krause's music store, Ogallala, Nebraska. Again, getting that wall of wow when you walk into your store that pulls people in. Lou Krause's, if you've ever been to Ogallala, it's not a big town, but he sells musical instruments into Wyoming, into Colorado, I'm trying to think where else. It's sort of the whole western Nebraska region. He started out, though, just renting band instruments to the local school system, and now has grown, and so he's much more of a regional player. But you walk into Lou's music shop, and it's like, even if you don't play guitar, you can't help but just kind of wander down through there and look and marvel at all those things. And that's a great way to get people to pull it into the back of your store. Now, having said that, that's a very, very key thing to think about. Next time you walk into your store, I should have asked that earlier. How many people are retailers here? Anyone?
How unfortunate is that?
There we go. Okay.
Good.
Your husband's a retailer. Okay. Well, the next time you walk into retailers' stores in your community, notice about how far in you're encouraged to want to walk into their store. And it's really, really critical that we see the full assortment of products within your store. Remember I said 65% of all retail sales are unplanned impulse purchases. And if we don't get them to the back of our store, then we're losing that selling opportunity. And so typically, those back corners are non-producing areas of your store. If you have good lighting, you got good product placement, you're going to get people further into the depths of your store, and that's like bumping your sales 20, 30% when you do that. Now, keep in mind, a good example of that, grocery stores. It's no accident that the produce department's on one side, the meat's on one side, and the dairy's on the other side. They scatter those things around the store strategically to get you to walk up and down the aisles and everything in between. They make their money on the stuff in between, on the aisles and in the end caps. That's where it is. All the sugar-laden, salt-laden, monosodium glutamate-laden products that are hanging on the ends of the shelves, that's what they're getting you, hoping that you will buy on your way between the produce, dairy, and the meat departments. Other good examples, hardware stores, typically the paint department, one of the better selling areas, usually isn't right by the front door, it's further in. Electrical and plumbing, those other sort of staple departments, they tend to be towards the back. That helps pull people to the backs of those stores. Jewelry stores that do repairs, typically the repair counter is in the back to pull people past the full price merchandise. A while back I was working with a guy in York, Nebraska, and he said, I have a policy. He said, even if I can fix it in 5 minutes, I can't do it right now, I'm busy, because he wants the customers to come back. I said, well, that's kind of inconvenient. He goes, no, I want them to walk past the full price merchandise twice. Because the second time, chances are they might bring their wife back with them. He said it works. He says it doesn't happen all the time, but 10% of the time they're coming through the store, and that's as a result they're gonna pick up and touch and feel the other merchandise, waiting for the repairs to be done. So why is a good floor plan important? Well, we need to expose the customers to as much merchandise as possible in a clear and concise manner. All right, having said that, when you stand at the front door of the Gap here and you look to the back, what is it that you see? What's that? The T-shirts, okay, on the front? Yeah, that works quite well. What else do you see?
Lighted back wall.
Exactly. And here's the rule of thumb in lighting is capture the customer's attention with light and their feet will follow. Wherever you want to pull them in your store, the cheapest, most inexpensive way is to give them a good visual destination and to turn up the volume of light on it, because customers are like moths. They will be drawn to the flame. And so that's how just good floor planning, good merchandising starts to pull people through the store and will help crank up the retail sales and the overall store. So think about that. Lighting, good floor plans, good movement, where we place our key destination products, and even within the departments, where we place different items in the department can invite further depth of selection on the customer's part when they start to shop those areas. One of my favorite stores, unfortunately we don't have businesses across from the Alamo in San Antonio. You walk in the front door and what do you see on the back wall? Whoa, there's a Cadillac coming through the wall. So anyone that's a tourist has to go see the quintessential piece of Texas transportation, the Cadillac with the fins. And they're all drawn to the back. I guess they sell the fake stuffed armadillos. Maybe that's why they're no longer in business. I mean, I went to Texas and I got you a fake stuffed armadillo. Look. Oh, gee, thanks. So anyway, fronting merchandise, end caps, sight lines, those things are all important. I bring this up now is because in this economy, we're having to operate our stores typically with a lot less merchandise on hand than what we had. And so now it's important to make those stores look as full as possible with as little as possible. In clothing industry, using your four-way racks like this really takes up a lot of space on the floor. And that's a great way to make your store look full, even though you may not be carrying as many units of merchandise. And I say that, let's see if I got anyway, versus if you show things on pipe racks like this, you're getting a lot of merchandise, a lot of back stock over on those walls. So maybe in this economy, we need to get our retailers to flip things out and to do more face outs of merchandise to keep their stores looking full, even though they're running it with maybe a third less inventory than what they once had. Same thing is here, is that you really don't see how many pairs of shorts that there are back here. If we do more face outs of the shorts, we really don't see the depth of that inventory. So we can kind of sneak by a little bit and not carry as much capital, as much debt into the bank. The other thing is that I always say, let me lose my cup of coffee here, that within the primary shopping zone in the store, which tends to be about knee height up to about head height, that's where we have to have density of product. And so if you look at this, and I say in that area, you want to see no more than about 20% space between the products or between the shelves. When you start to exceed that ratio, your section will start to look not as full, will start to look less well inventoried or empty in the customer's mind. Here's what I was trying to show you before. A good example here. This retailer is at the end of the season, what they're doing, there were more items that were shown on the rod, densifying the upper portions of the fixtures. Now they're doing more face-outs. And that's exactly the strategy. We're probably having to employ more now in our stores, is doing more of those face-outs that make our stores look full. This one I love. Looks like a pretty good selection, huh? The upper 4 rows of cans at the very top of those shelves, empty. This retailer went to a hardware show in Colorado, in Denver, and their paint rep was going to throw all those cans in the trash. He said, "You can ship them back to our store." And they said, "Okay, no problem." And that's what they did with it. They said, we actually did very well. They're in a town of about 2,500 people. They actually do very well with their paint department. Often they had the perception, when it was just this amount, that they didn't have the depth of inventory that was needed to service the client. But by suddenly massing out all those cans, which the customers never touch, their sales were boosted by doing that. And I forget the exact percentage. It wasn't huge, but it was about 15–20% jump in their paint store. And that's not a bad jump to have overall. This is some of the recent work we've been doing with grocery stores in Washington, D.C. We're working on what we call sort of food deserts, or some people call them food islands, but those portions of the inner city that don't have good access to better quality food. And a lot of those neighborhoods actually have pretty good little stores, but they're not well presented, they're not well managed. One of the things that we found, just universally, I have no idea why this is, if it's something culturally inherent to the folks that are running the stores, but they're laying all their shelves out horizontally. All the soups go across the top shelf. And then there's all this what I call add-ins, macaroni and cheese, and hamburger helper, and all that stuff. It's on the next shelf, goes all the way across. Pasta all the way down there. And then there's sauce all the way across the bottom. Well, what happens is the customer shop the first 2 shelves, they don't shop the bottom 2 shelves. And so as a result, we're not getting as much bang for our buck in terms of our investment in our inventory. And so this is we went back and we actually reset them. I apologize, my left image is a little blurry. Now we've got all the soups over here. The next section now, we have all the pastas, and we blatantly put the better quality pasta sauce, the more expensive sauce on the top shelf, thinking that they're going to go for that. And if you want to make your own sauce out of just basic canned tomatoes, we have those too, but they're down on the bottom shelf. And it's, it's like going to the cereal aisle with your kids at the grocery store. All the sugar-laden stuff is down here at eye height for the kids, so that they know it's going to sell to the kids. The better stuff's up here where the adults are going to buy it. So you need to think about how our shelves are laid out. And then also we need to think about the adjacencies in terms of is that an add-on sale with our store? What we were finding is that they had different sizes of products that were related on one side of the store, the rest of the merchandise was on the other side of the store. It was just wherever they could find space, they were short on time, short on staff, short on money, they would just throw their products in, and it really wasn't making sense overall. This is another aisle in the same store. You can't really see this from where you're seated, but here you got your cereal running all the way across the top shelf. Right below that, let's see, I think maybe that's some oatmeal, but then right below that, automotive. I like to put a little motor oil on my cereal. First thing in the morning, it really gets you going, And then rock salt over here next to pet food. It's like, it just didn't make sense. And so then on the right-hand side, you can see we reset it. And after we got done resetting, here now we have all our paper good products. Now, which you think, well, why do I want paper good products next to cereal? This is where you also have to think about every business has its own inherent needs. In business, in the inner city area, it's all about shoplifting. This is his bulky aisle. Because it's too bulky to walk out the door with it. And so he puts anything that doesn't cost much. He's not too worried about stealing, like big rolls of toilet paper, big boxes of cereal, or big things of wiper fluid. That went on that aisle. So I wasn't going to win that one. I mean, I realized that putting paper products right next to the cereal is not necessarily my best interest. The paper products should probably be over by the cleaning. But we have started to get it so the customers are now starting to shop a vertical section in the store. So we're getting to shop section by section, and the next strategy is to go back and start looking at the adjacencies, meaning whatever product is next to it will help sell that product. Batteries next to flashlights, belts next to pants. Those things are add-on sales, and that's the way you want to lay out your shelf. So get the retailers to think about those things in their stores. Often they just start shoving things around. They're blind. They're doing it every day. They kind of become oblivious to what's happening in their stores, and having that outside perspective can sometimes help start to steer them in the right way. And that's our our strategies later on. So we got cereal, we had paper, we had auto, we had pet supplies. The result of doing this, we just did this in mid-August. I was back at the end of August working with them again, and in 3 weeks we'd seen about a 2 to 3% sales gain is what their guess was as a result of doing that. So that's pretty good. I mean, a lot of people right now, flat sales are okay. 2 to 3% sales gain, all the better. So this guy was pretty happy. This guy was Korean, spoke very little English, was very apprehensive when we walked in the door, and we were translating. You're going to love it. We were translating through his sister, who was on the phone from Boca Raton, Florida. And she finally communicated to them that, yes, trust them, let them try something, and go from there. So we did one aisle, and they were kind of like, yeah, looks pretty good, okay. And so we kept going, and then all of a sudden we came back 3 weeks later. We were godlike. I mean, he said, oh, you like to have coffee? Hold on. He'd never served coffee in a store before. He brought out the coffee maker, plugged it in, and he started making coffee for us. So it was pretty cute to see what had happened. Anyway, pay attention to your shelf and your fixture layout. It can pay really good dividends. This is a mock-up that we did for a retailer. This is a woman that manufactures her own candles. And what she was doing is taking the quart candles and putting them next to the pint candles side by side, which kind of makes sense because it's obviously the same scent. We said it'd probably make more sense to put all of the quart candles rated eye height and then put the smaller candles on the top and the bottom and correlate those that way. And it starts to make much better use of our shelf space, and the section starts to read much more cleanly overall. Your end caps, very few people pay attention to them. Simplicity is the key there. A lot of times customers are very much trained to think that whatever's on the end cap is a great buy. Great way to improve your sales. Sometimes you just put it on there, they think that, and you can be charging the exact same price. So, don't hesitate to kind of play with that a little bit and see if you can't take advantage of that. Ends of aisles become end caps, and those are things that we need to do in terms of creating add-on sales. I love this retailer. They went by organize anything black in terms of a gift store. That's a great way to create add-on sales. If somebody's trying to put together a basket of gifts for someone, keep going till you get to the price point that they're thinking of. So organizing things according to color and size, again, create add-on sales. Those are all important. Some things to consider when you start to reposition your stores. Survey your customers. They're your best source of information. You need to make some adjustments to your lines of merchandise. Go with the winners, send the rest to the dog pound, and we'll talk about how to do that. Make it easy for the customers to buy. Tie your promotions into downtown events, and add values to the products you sell. And let's talk about each of those points kind of individually here. One, understanding your demographics. This is one of the things that you as a Main Street organization can do that's of major benefit to all your retailers. They are busy, with their own family lives and trying to run the store. They don't have a lot of time to delve into the market analysis and understand the demographics and the ramifications there. And when you do that for them, that is a major time savings. I can't tell you when I was Main Street manager how many times when I had 4 or 5 businesses that were very skeptic of this young kid directly out of college that was going to come in and save the downtown. And I wasn't going to save the downtown. I was going to help facilitate that. And that was my whole approach. And so I tried to get them to see me as a resource for the shopping district. And so anytime I could come across a piece of information that might be relevant to them and their business, I would walk it down there. And so one of the days I went to this seminar down in Indianapolis. It was about retail market analysis. And we started penciling out all kinds of figures about what you could possibly do in women's wear and men's wear and all those sorts of things. And I took that into at that time we had a JCPenney store in downtown, and Walt, it was the guy that named it, ran the JCPenney store. Walt saw that. He said, oh, that's pretty interesting. And what did he do? He went upstairs and he pulled out his own parallel report that was done by JCPenney Company, because I get one of these every month. That was the icebreaker. He knew that I was trying to help, and he suddenly started to understand what I was doing, and he started to trust me. Trust is absolutely imperative in this regard. But once you start to get that demographic information and sales information out there, you're going to start to get better rapport with your businesses. Now, the other thing to be leery is, it's always kind of a tip-off if you walk into a retailer and you say, well, tell me about your customer. Well, my customer is everyone. No, it's not. I'm sorry, that doesn't happen. I don't care where you are this day and age, even a small rural town out in the middle of nowhere, unless you're the grocery store, everyone is probably not your customer. There are going to be certain ages, certain is it men, is it women, is it children, whatever. They're going to be your customers. And so we need to understand that. So doing your survey work, a great inexpensive way to do this now is, if you haven't played around with it, is SurveyMonkey, getting people to go online, take a survey. When they're done, offer them a coupon to come back in the store and shop. It doesn't have to be a great coupon. You're not going to have to give them $10 or anything like that. A simple cup of coffee, a free ice cream cone, or something like that will get them to come back into the store. But survey your customers. Listen and take action to your customers' comments. This is a major advantage that the large bureaucracy or the large stores don't have. Encourage your store customer surveys and invite their opinions on store changes. Ask about quality and value received, service selection, who they would consider your competition to be, and why that competition rates better than you. So don't be afraid to be a little self-deprecating and say, hey, how am I not doing well? What could I do better? And when you break that veil, then you're going to start to involve people. And then start to understand. I always say, and I showed this yesterday in my sign talk as well, it's very, very important that you start to understand the style, I call sort of my style price point chart, about what sorts of physical selling responses and how people, what your physical selling responses are and how people react to those. And generally speaking, there's about 9 different categories that you can market or you can position your store from. Traditional, contemporary, high-tech, avant-garde are sort of the images, and then there's low price point, moderate, and high price point. Each one of those things will have selling stimuluses that trigger certain responses from the customers, and so you need to use those to your strength. Go with the winners, send the rest to the dog pound. And basically what we're getting at here is you need to have some sort of database to help you manage your inventory. Whether it's QuickBooks or Quicken for retailers, or whether it's some other point of sale system. Point of sale systems now, $2,500, very, very simple to use. They're, anyway, great investments, but it's easy for us as retailers to always remember the mistakes that we've made. The next time we go back to market, though, we'll remember that. We won't make those same mistakes again, and we'll remember what sold well. But it's the things in between that start to really define you as a business. And maybe there's certain things in there where you're getting better margins on than you'd expected, and maybe those start to become niche departments for your store. But unless you have a computer database to be able to manage that, you're not going to be able to identify that, and you're not going to be able to figure out what that is. Let's see. One of the things that you can look at, though, right now is if you find that you're not getting good margins on things, don't be afraid to go out to find substitute vendors to help improve those margins in your stores, especially in highly price-sensitive areas. And if your prices generally are within 5 to 10% of the highly price-sensitive merchandise, that's probably pretty good. You can make these margins up in other areas. Adjusting lines of merchandise, build the inventory on the products that provide the best margins. That's your best markup and the most consistent turnover. And again, this is hard to do from your memory, but if you have a computer program, you can start to identify that. Try alternative suppliers. Eliminate reduced items that will be difficult to compete with the discounters. And if you're going head-to-head with a new discounter in town, do this before they open their doors. How to make it easy for the customer to buy. Fast transactions. There is a chain of stores, restaurants in San Antonio called Bill Miller's. Basic barbecue joint, but this guy has done it well because he has a commitment to staff training and retaining good quality staff members. They have a commitment that whenever there are 3 people in line, that you need to double up the staff at that register to knock that line down to a weight of no more than 1 or 2. But if it hits 4, the managers are all over you. You need to hit that line now. Get more people up there on that register because they don't want you waiting. They realize if you see 4 people waiting, that's the point where people turn around and they go out the door and they go somewhere else. They'll get in their car and they'll drive through Burger King or Wendy's. So fast transactions is important. Making sure that the employees aren't talking on their cell phone, having a conversation at the same time as they're checking you out. That says that I don't care about you as a customer. You're not important. I have something else going on in my life. So all those things are important for the transactions. Offer free assembly, free delivery at certain distances, free shipping, gift reminders, all those things. Again, I'll be happy to give you the list on that if you'd like that. Make it easy for the customers to buy. Track your favorite styles and lines of merchandise. Remember Crestmont Menswear that I told you about in Frostburg, Maryland. He has a great database, and again, that's part of his point. I should have said that. It's part of his point of sale program, so that he has a customer profile within there, so he can see who buys that type of merchandise. When it comes into the store, he can automatically send them a postcard saying "just arrived," and he knows who carries, who wants what sizes or what their favorite colors are, when their birthdays are. Those point of sale inventory programs now really become your marketing arm of your overall store. So don't hesitate to use that. Offer service installation contracts, have a web presence so they can pre-shop your store, unconditional guarantees and returns, all those things. Again, I'll be happy to send those to you. Product knowledge, absolutely imperative that you know how your products work and under what conditions they work best. Know who else in town carries the same merchandise or complementary merchandise, and don't be afraid to give the referrals to that. Tie into special events that are happening in your downtown. Let's see. Adding value to the products that you sell. The key thing here, I want you to get away with this, is the middle comment here. It says, don't be afraid to throw away packaging that doesn't match your store's image. If you walk into a Crate and Barrel, a lot of the same things you buy there, you can go to a Target store and buy. And the difference is that Crate and Barrel commits to reducing that junky image and that packaging. They put it out there on the shelf and display it in a really cool manner, put neat lights on it, and they charge 20 or 30% more for that. They used to be able to get away with that. More and more people are realizing I can go to Target and I get the same thing for 20, 30% less, and Crate and Barrel has started to differentiate themselves more. But for a long time, you could go get the same basic plastic beachwear, dinnerware sets at Target, or at Crate and Barrel, and you can go to Target and get the same one for 20 and 30% less. And it's just the lighting and how they're presented. Avoid placing add-on charges on products. This is kind of my approach here, is that some people don't like that, or some people like it, some don't. I feel it's important to go ahead and build in the cost of that service on the product. One simple price, no questions asked. Give them service that will bring tears of joy. And this is the strength of the small, local, independent retailer. And I say this because this is a story that a guy that was our fundraising chair was telling me at lunch one day. This is when we were raising money for public improvements in Bluffton, Indiana. We were raising like $1.5 million or something like that. And the guy we hired to come in and direct the campaign was telling me that when he used to live in San Antonio, this is long before I moved there, his family would go eat at the same restaurant every Sunday. And they sat at the same table, they had the same waiter, Jimmy. And Jimmy would, Jimmy was like an extension of the family. He was always part of the family. And one day they went there and Jimmy was no longer their waiter. And the person that seated them at the wrong table. And this guy, Jeep, had little kids. So, well, this is not our routine. We're usually over at this table. And they said, we'll move you over there, Mr. Gaston. And so they put, his name is Jeep, God love it. They put Jeep and his family over there in their favorite booth. And so they ordered the meals and they came out. And instead of having applesauce with the hamburger, there were peas on the plate. And the waiter said, well, peas always come with that meal. Come to find out, Jimmy, or the waiter, had noticed one of Jeep's family's requests many years ago that the kids didn't like peas, they liked applesauce. He went and bought a jar of applesauce and kept it in the refrigerator. It was specifically for his family. And I'm thinking, wow. What kind of restaurants will do that? And so all of a sudden, here's my fundraising campaign chair in the middle of lunch. He was so moved by this guy's commitment to customer service, he starts crying. I'm like, look, this is the last thing I need when I'm out to lunch, is one, being seen with a grown man crying. Secondly, it's my fundraising campaign director crying at lunch. I said, this is not a good image. Stop crying. But anyway, I thought it was just a really good testament to showing just what simple things, though, people can do to get people to come back, and it builds customer loyalty. Inventory control, we've already talked about a little bit about that and how important that is to manage your inventory. Diversifying your sales, never hurts to do this. Internet sales, a lot of the retailers that I've worked with will say that it's anywhere between 5, maybe 15% of their overall sales they can do on the internet. I'm going to show you a couple here in a second. Selling to industries, if you have any sort of industrial accounts, hardware stores I've seen make that effort where they're going out and doing special orders for local industries and trying to get those accounts. Private labeling, if you're into housewares or clothing and those sorts of things, you might be able to start to do that. Again, that can give you better brand awareness. Gap did not start making their own jeans. They got someone else to make their jeans for them many, many years ago. Now they own the factories, or they've got great leases with people to make those jeans for them, and they command great rates. This is a business, online business, Time for Prom in Thomasville, Georgia. They realized that a lot of their clients couldn't make it into town because due to family commitments, and so when it came around prom time, it's kind of hard for them to get in there. They put the ability to pre-shop the dresses on the web, and as a result of doing this, their sales went up by 200,000 in the first year. Not a bad deal. My favorite shows you how low-tech. A lot of retailers are very apprehensive about selling on the web, and there's some reasons why. You put all this product out there on the web, and suddenly people order it, and you don't have it. Your store can look empty if you can't fulfill the orders. It can be very cumbersome. Scuba Toys, based in Dallas, Texas. And you think about scuba diving and snorkeling, the first thing you think is Dallas, Texas, right? The Trinity River, great place to go scuba diving if you want to look at mud. I mean, there's no reason to scuba dive in Texas. But these guys like scuba diving, and they opened their own scuba store. Thank you. And what they did is they said, we're going to be low tech on the web. And they had a live streaming camera and an 800 number. And you could call the store and say, hey, do you have a certain snorkel, a certain set of fins? And they would take that product and they would come over and they would hold it up in front of the camera and say, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And they would go back and then they would take the person's credit card number over the phone, and that's how they did their online sales. As low tech as you can get, but using the internet to boost sales. So I thought that was pretty creative. They have since moved on from that format. They now have more of a typical selling format, but that's how they got started with all this. So it's still in this day and age, I'm absolutely amazed at the number of small businesses that I work with that don't have any type of internet presence. Now, it doesn't mean you have to sell over the internet. The internet is today's yellow pages. And a lot of people are going to say, I want to look at Anchor hockey glasses because I want to buy someone a gift, and I'm going to type in Billings, Montana. And boom, the retailers that have that keyword in their list page, their name will show up. You don't have to sell the item over the web, but they can at least find you, and they can call the store, or it saves them time in searching around town, and they're going to be able to find you. So again, it's one of the major things that you can do as a business improvement district, a Main Street group, is to help get them on the internet, and that's a fairly cost-effective thing to do. Maybe you can include that as part of your membership. Samter's men's clothing wear in Nebraska, in Fremont, Nebraska. He doesn't carry all his inventory online, but he carries basic white Oxford shirts, belts, some cologne, khaki pants, navy blazers, those sorts of things. For any of his clients, when they're traveling and they need something, they forget something, they can call the store and he'll sell them those things. Or if there's a gift locally that somebody would like, you can do that as well. All right, and then last, and I'm not going to get into this a lot because Susan's going to talk about this in a little bit, is good window displays. It is important. It's the most cost-effective way of marketing. Continuously, I've heard from retailers that is the most cost-effective way of marketing their business, but more importantly, they say, when I put it in the store window, it sells. I'm like, gosh, don't you hate that? Keep putting stuff in the window. It's okay. You can do that. And so I look at right now is people are kind of looking at what to do with their advertising budgets in their stores and where to spend that money. Consider your store windows to be part of your advertising budget. Commit to spending some money with good lighting or with good props or good posters, good signage. Those are good image builder things for your overall store. One of my pet peeves on all this is lighting. Absolutely critical. Most small retailers do not understand how important it is to have good lighting in your store. And this is actually getting a little bit washed out. I apologize. Your lighting needs to be right attached to the window, as close as you can get it without burning the building down. That's kind of how I said it. But you want your lights to come in, you want it to hit the product, and you want that to bounce back through the windows. That's how you break the glare on the glass. That's how you can see your product. And to save energy, you don't mount it way up high. Bring the lights down low. If you've got the bar on the bottom of the transit window, that's a great way to locate it. Often, though, what happens is the
the real estate agent or the contractor says, oh, during the remodel, oh, yeah, we display with the lights. Put that junction box back here. And what happens is it's 2 or 3 feet in from the window, and all you end up doing is top lighting the top of the merchandise, and you never see it. The light has to come in, it has to hit, it has to reflect and go back through. That's what allows you to see the merchandise.
So I say that coupled with clear glass, you're in business. People can finally see what it is that you're trying to sell as a store. And you look at that, it's like, wow, it's starting to glow. And that's that time-honored tradition. I mean, that's a shot from the 1950s of a retailer. The other thing is understand the quality of lighting. Everyone is very, very in tune to wanting to save money these days, but there's certain times when you can save it and certain times when you can't save it. The store on the left, this guy was going to look at an energy grant for his store. He said, well, I'm kind of torn about this. I'm not sure where I should use the fluorescents or how many I should use, et cetera, et cetera. And so the one on the left has compact fluorescent spots. The one on the right has halogen. Look at the difference in the quality of the lighting. The fluorescent lights just kind of go, they light everything. They're kind of effective up about 3 or 4 feet, whereas the halogen lights give you a very defined sense of beam. They give you the reach, they give you the ability to really knock out the merchandise. And so my philosophy is, yes, it's good to be green, but we also need to be retailers. We need to be effective with what we're trying to do in our stores. If everything is lit the same and it's the same color of lighting, it's not going to be real inspiring. Let me show you another store here in a second. And when you see fluorescent lights in the window like that, that's time to do something else. This is where I say you got to spend money sometimes. This is one of those areas where you do it. Halogen lights in the front are what are going to break the glare on the glass. Putting fluorescents behind there won't do the trick. This is the same window. The one on the right had the energy efficiency grant done for their store. It's fluorescent lights everywhere. And the retailer came in and she said, we just had that grant done. She goes, my store doesn't quite look the same. I'm not really happy with it. And I said, do you have any of those old bulbs? And she brought this huge 50-gallon trash can out of the back of her stock room. Yeah, I still got these. I said, let me have 2 of these. We went up front and we screwed them in. Look at the quality and the difference of the light. Now it's starting to break the glare on the glass. So it's the angle, it's the type of light that starts to overcome the glare on the street. And so with that said, that's all I'm going to really say about the window display stuff. Okay, here are my funny ones. The mannequins are missing the fingers. What are you really marketing in your windows? And hand-lettered signs and dirty windows. And too many signs taped all over your storefront windows. My favorite. Zero gravity, not responsible for personal items. It's a climbing store where you climb the wall. So anyway, no. And don't even think about coming in here. Too much negativity out there on the edge. So all those things. To me, the items are in the window. They need to be for sale, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, all right, let me get to the last things here. Sort of summary. 1, chain stores basically carry the same product with little ability to offer goods specific to the local market. So again, that's one of your strengths as the local independent business person. Name recognition, their name recognition isn't always a positive, and you need to make sure that you play that to your strength and make sure that yours is. Independents have the ability to be creative, spontaneous, and instantaneous, where the chain stores have policies, they're cumbersome, they're slow to react. You as an independent business person can be much quicker about that. Become an expert, commit yourself to a cycle of change and evaluation, and do your R&D, which is, as I said before, rip off and duplicate. Not literally, but borrow those ideas and gently apply them to your own situation. So anyway, that is sort of a quick overview of all the different things we've been looking at doing during the recession to kind of tune up our businesses. Questions or comments? Yes?
Do you have is there an industry standard for advertising, like percent of gross sales, or does it vary by industry?
Ballpark figure, 5% of gross, somewhere in there. It depends on your products. It depends the time of year, those sorts of things. Jewelry stores are going to be much higher. So, Susan, anything come to mind there on that? Ballpark generally is about 5 to 10%, depending upon the product lines and what it is that you're selling. Good question. Other things? Okay, great. I'll stick around a little bit afterwards if you have any other questions. I'd be happy to talk with you then. Thanks.